Welcome back. Chapter 5, Part B. It's not very long. I could have done the whole thing last time, but we had a phone call, so I couldn't do the whole thing. So, just figuring out a good place to start. So Mom was proud of Tom for trying to get together a funeral for a dog. What a noble thought. God love that boy, Mama said. Sometimes I get so exasperated with him I could scream. And then he does something like that makes me very proud he's my son. Of course he can have the old flag. Mama wiped the flour from her hands and went up to the attic to get the flag for me because she couldn't quite remember where she put it. When I returned to the barn with it, Sammy, Danny, and Basil were back from digging the grave. The coffin was on my wagon. Tom draped the flag over it. "We'll let old Butch lie in state until 2 o'clock this afternoon," he said. "But," Sammy said, "only people lie in state." I couldn't keep my mouth shut, so I was curious. "What is lying in state?" I asked. "When a person dies," Tom explained. "If he or she has been a good person who is loved and respected, the body in the coffin lies in state, in an undertaking parlor, or in the Mormon tabernacle, or in the community church, so that people can pay their last respects to the dead." "You've seen it, JD. "But I didn't know what they called it," I said. "Then Sammy was right. Only people lie in state." Tom looked angry for a second, and then his face became calm. "If that was Brownie lying in that coffin, you'd want him to lie in state, wouldn't you?" It wasn't until that moment that I really understood what Tom was trying to do. There were at least 7 or 8 kids in the barn right then who felt about old Butch the same way I did about Brownie. "You're right," I said. "Old Butch deserves to lie in state." Tom sat down on a bale of hay. "Now, about the funeral procession," he said. "The kids who don't own dogs will be the pallbearers. Basil, you and JD will pull the wagon. The hearse. Following the hearse will come a band, and after the band, the mourners." We all stared at Tom as if he'd gone local. The only band in town was the town band, made up of grown-ups. "Sammy," Tom continued, "you'll play your cornet in the band, and also play taps at the final resting place." "I can play taps," Sammy said, "but I don't know how to play a funeral march." "I know," Tom said, "so you and the band will play Home Sweet Home instead." "You can play that, can't you?" "It's about the first thing you'll learn on how to play on any instrument," Sammy said. "Danny will play his trombone," Tom said. "Seth will play his violin. Jamie will play his clarinet. Howard will play his snare drum, and I'll play his bass drum." Seth shook his head. "Who ever heard of a violin in a band?" he asked. "Besides, you don't know how to play a bass drum." "You can play Home Sweet Home, and that's all that matters," Tom said. "And with my great brain, I can learn to beat time on a bass drum in a minute." Tom got up from the bale of hay. "The fellows in the band will be here at 1:30 so that we can have a rehearsal." It was time by then for all of us to go have lunch. "We can't leave old Butch alone," Tom said after the others left. "I'll stand as the honor guard while you eat, and then you can come back and relieve me while I eat." Well, that was all right with me, because it gave me a chance to be in the spotlight during lunch for a change. Papa, Mama, and Aunt Bertha listened intently as I told them about the funeral arrangements. Sven didn't seem impressed at all. "Who ever heard of a funeral procession for a dog?" he said. "This is ridiculous." Papa glared at Sven. The death of any living thing, be it a plant or an animal or a person, is never ridiculous. He said, "You will march in that funeral procession with your brothers." "At my age?" Sven asked with a startled look. "Marie Vincent will think I've gone crazy." "That isn't what she'll think," Papa said. "It's just what you think. And I don't like your thinking at all." It was almost worth old Butch dying to see Papa put Sven in his place for a change. After I had eaten, I ran to the barn to tell Tom the good news about how Papa had really told off Sven. "It was about time," Tom said. "Sven's been getting too big for his bitches. Now, J.D. stand his honor guard. Any mourners to come by before I get back, let them pat the coffin and say goodbye to old Butch." "Not again." "Oh, a restricted number. We don't do that." "Go away." Doo-dah, doo-dah, doo-dah day. The phone, they just love me only when I'm doing stuff. In a little while, kids started coming into the barn from all over town to say goodbye to old Butch. Then they stood in small groups, talking in whispers like people do at funerals.